So as a massive Pixar animation fan, I was so excited to watch Elemental, and whilst it is, a sweet and watchable movie, I was actually pretty disappointed by the final product, as it just didn't have the epicness and the scale that we've come to expect from awesome Pixar films. And these anthropomorphic elements trying to coexist with one another was such a brilliant premise, and what they did do in this film was interesting. I just did not think it was at their typical high standard. Now, the narrative that they ultimately did decide to go in with this movie is that of immigration, and the way that they use all of these elements as metaphors was actually really, really interesting. For example, fire as an element, not feeling like they can coexist with other elements, as the whole world of Element City is practically made for other elements, namely water and earth and air, and fire, and you get to see this on a number of different occasions actually, are made to feel excluded from this world. So that narrative of all of the other elements getting on with each other really, really well and prospering as a result was depicted really, really well. And I guess, the community vibe of all of the fire elements in particular, in terms of having their community stores, was really, really cool. Especially as the director did go through this experience in terms of his family being immigrants to New York City. So, a lot of life experience is put on screen, which I think is great. But I think, first and foremost, this movie does need to be an entertaining one. And especially when Pixar as a brand are so synonymous with having such high epic scale films, I just think, lately Pixar really haven't been delivering as to their high standard as the previous films were. And as a massive comic book fan, I was actually really excited to see the magical element and powers and abilities being carried out with these characters, especially as a number of them can easily die when they go to another element's area. And actually, in the marketing material, that is how this movie was depicted, in terms of a bit of a Zootopia-inspired world, where, all of the elements are living in different places, and what's this awesome storyline going to be when two elements fall in love with each other. So, it was depicted as something that could be really, really interesting, and this definitely was touched upon, especially at the end of the movie with water being in the fire's area, and similarly with fire being in water's area. But I definitely feel like they could have just done so much more with the powers and abilities of these characters. But, obviously the storyline that they wanted to tell was a lot smaller in scale, which, like I said, Pixar have definitely been doing lately in terms of focusing on much smaller tales. And, they did focus a lot more on the sacrifices that parents have to do, especially immigrants. And I really liked how they balanced this with the pressure of kids in terms of having to live up to the unattainable standards of their parents. I thought that was really, really well depicted from Ember's perspective. I thought that the representations of the elements on screen are really, really good. So, for example, Ember as a character is really, really passionate, but she also has a really bad temper. And the Ripple character, he's really easygoing, he just goes with the flow, he's really transparent, and he's really emotional. And of course, they explore the forbidden romance between these two characters. I thought they could have explored this a little bit more from the Water family perspective. I know that they did show that, the Water family are really, really rich, and they are very different from a socio-economic perspective to Ember's family, but I just feel like there could have been a little bit more resistance from the Water characters. Earth and Air might as well not have been in this film, as they were just the true definition of background characters, and their moments on screen just weren't that correctly done, as I feel like the Gale Air character was just so bizarre, and then the Earth characters were just a little bit pathetic, and I just wish that they would have just done so much more with them. I did love the culture clash moments. So, for example, Ripple just really not fitting into the Fire family, and the Fire guys not fully understanding him. So I thought that was really, really well done, as the odds really were stacked against these two characters. I feel like from a Pixar perspective, I was hoping for this movie to be at the same caliber as The Incredibles, as Inside Out, and most notably from Disney. I thought it would be really similar to Zootopia, which I absolutely loved. I think Zootopia is one of the best movies lately to come out from Walt Disney World, and I just was so disappointed with this film, as it's so low scale for Pixar, and I just think it's very similar to their recent movies. For example, Turning Red, Wall-E, The Good Dinosaur. It was just so disappointing. And from a romance perspective, I guess you can compare it to other films. For example, My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Coming to America. And whilst, like I said, I do appreciate what they did with this film, I was just expecting so much more from it. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Elemental a 4 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear what you thought of this movie, so please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.